Look at that. I got space. I got so much space here, dude. I need to make better use of all this space. Hey, so it's 2022, and there are a lot of 2As all of a sudden. So let's talk about the top 8 of them, specifically for new players. One caveat before we get going, I'm deliberately not including Ikaru on the list, or 3 Ikarus for that matter, because for new players, which again is who this video is kind of aimed at, Trickaroo is more of a thing that you should just have in the back of your mind. It's something for when you hit that mid to late game area and you need a hyper efficient team to clear DB12, NB12, and Punisher's Crypt, amongst other things. So some of the ones on this list are probably more generally useful because I'm imagining new players might not even have their first unit 2A'd yet, so this could be a determining factor for which one they're going to commit to first. With that said, number 8. How do you improve a monster that already has a 30% heal, attack bar boost, single target strip, and defense break? Is the answer, give it 5% more heal and a little attack bar manipulation? Dang skippy it is. Belladion is great, but the thing is, he was great before the 2A. So what you're getting when you second awaken a Belladion is a huge buff to base stats. And that's not to say that isn't worth it, it's more to say I don't think he necessarily needs to be your first, considering that Fran and Riley are both more accessible ways. Fran is available via the Ancient Queen Shop or in the Summoner's Way questline. Riley is in the Fusion Hexagram. What you can expect when you have a Belladion 2A though, a third skill that heals for 35% AoE your entire team and boosts their attack bar by 30%, a single target full strip on skill 2, and a fairly reliable defense break on skill 1. Number 7. Number 7 is Lulu. Admittedly, if I had made this list like a year ago, Lulu would have been way higher on your priority list for 2A'ing. However, because the aforementioned Riley and Fran exist, there's a slightly lessened sense of urgency that comes with getting a 2A Lulu. Though Lulu is still one of my favorite immunity options in RTA, if somebody takes my Riley, my Wusa, I've got a Lulu and friends ready and waiting for me. Lulu is exceptional at staying alive herself and keeping the rest of the team alive. She has a full team cleanse and immunity on skill 3. It'll give the immunity buff only to people who didn't have debuffs on them before. Her skill 2 is a heal for a single target and herself that also gives immunity to the target. And her first skill will heal... heals the... What? And her first skill will automatically heal the target with the lowest HP ratio by 15%. There we go, Evan. One last thing to keep in mind about Lulu is that the dungeon where you second awaken her, Calderon, is actually not the easiest dungeon ever. So that's another reason why I put her at number 7, even though she's still really, really good. Alright, later. Now this is where a little bit of bias comes into the list. Number 6 is Raok. I love this good dog with all my heart. He's got a defense break on skill 1 and has a chance to get very, very fun. His second skill though is where the fun combo potential comes into play. It's a team up ability that will bring 2 allies with him. And that's exciting because imagine if you pull a Lauren and a Verd with that. In that situation, your entire team would gain 40% attack bar. You'd put a defense break on one monster, along with a slow and reducing their attack bar. That is so much to do on a single skill. And finally, his passive says that if you're able to defeat a unit, he's going to gain an additional turn. So he can do all this again, if he happens to down a unit. He's also a great pairing in TOA. You could actually use him with my son, the Water Homunculus. Number 5, Shaman the Lightgriffin. Shaman is on the list because he's really good where he's really good. So that being Necro, Calderon, or anywhere with a dark element boss. This is because of his passive. His passive natively increases the damage that he deals on dark element enemies by 100%. It also reduces the incoming damage that they'll deal to him by 50%. Because of this, he's actually a super popular inclusion on the Trickaroo team for NB12. Oh, and his first skill heals, which is pretty fabulous. You want to root him on damage, by the way. He is a predominantly damage-focused unit. Number 4, Vigor. You know it is pretty lit when the monster gets this high up on the list after he's already been nerfed. Vigor is a super useful monster in a lot of different places. He has a 3-turn defense break on skill 3, he has a heal and anti-crit as well as a speed buff on skill 2, and he's got heal block on skill 1. This guy is a monster. I absolutely adore Vigor, and he can kind of be the glue that holds your team together in situations where you need just a little bit more healing or a little bit more damage. Vigor can be used in places like Lumel level 5. At the Cliff of Tough Beastmen, one of the teams that was recommended on the channel earlier was Veramos, Crow, Vigor, and Fran. I love this guy on Violent. He's absolutely awesome. Getting that additional turn, proccing from defense break into more damage, or defense break into a heal is so satisfying. Number 3, Spectra, the Fire Griffin. You're going to get a lot of use out of this guy. Spectra is very reliable in places like TOA. I use him alongside Tyrone, Fran, Lauren, and Verd for a very safe team that can just eliminate bosses and clear floors in TOA. You can just press auto and let the team do it for you. Spectra is also great in beginner DB12 teams before you move into Trickaroo. Spectra's third skill is an AoE attack bar reduced by 30%, but it also applies an attack break, and it'll slow them down, so you're going to find that you'll start lapping them pretty easily. That's awesome in Dragons B12 because you can actually reduce the right tower and give yourself more time before the immunity buff goes on the boss. And his skill 2 is just big damage. It is just straight up large damage that targets an enemy. Something to note about Spectra is that he also has the highest base speed in the game at 126. Wait, I thought that was Masha.
What are you on about, man?
So Spectra, specifically for early game players, is a very safe damage dealing option that also provides a little bit of utility for the full team. Okay guys, so this is going to be cheating a little bit. Number 2 and number 1 can kind of be interchangeable. Get off the fence, Evan. Sorry, that's how I'm doing the video. It's my video. Okay, number 2 is the dot package. That is Sath and Tatu. Sath is the Fire Grim Reaper, and he is definitely the most important part of the dot package, because without him, your dots are not dealing double their damage. And technically, the enemy's dots are not dealing double damage either, but that rarely comes into play. And Tatu is there as an option to detonate the dots early, so you don't have to sit around waiting for enemies to take their turn to take that damage. And just as a reminder, these two are part of the hyper-efficient dot team that we actually have videos for on the channel, and it looks like this. It's usually including either a Lucian or a Veramos as your lead, with 2 Melias, Sath, and Tatu. Most importantly though, Tatu is moving last to detonate the dots because everybody else is going to apply dots. The dot team is excellent in places like Giants B12, you can even use it in Steel Fortress, it gives you another option in TOA, and some people have limited success in Dragons B12, though it does introduce an element of variance that I don't personally love. But hey, it's not about me, it's about you. If you can pass it with the dot team, more power to you, dude. And lastly, number 1, used everywhere, it's Crow, the Dark Inugami. Crow was featured in every single Rift Beast team that we did in the free-to-play guide to Rift Beast. He's the Dark Inugami, you know him, you love him. If you don't have one, you should absolutely get him first. I usually recommend that people build Crow first because he's a facet of the starter GB12 team. So if you don't feel comfortable going immediately into the dot team for Giants B12, then you can use the Sigmaris, Fran, Lauren, Crow, and another damage dealer. In the past, I've recommended people use 2A Naomi as that second damage dealer for Giants B12. She's still a great option. Just beware, Naomi doesn't quite age as well as some of the other monsters that we've talked about on this list. Meaning, you're not going to be using her in a ton of other places except for Giants. Crow, on the other hand, is used in so many places. You can use him in raids, you can use him in dungeons, you can use him in Rift Beasts. Heck, you can even bring him into TOA to nuke down bosses. The dude is fabulous. He has a brand on his skill 3 and huge damage. He has a skill 2 that does a small team up, and his skill 1 puts a defense break in a dot. So the takeaway for Crow is the word damage. Just imagine I'm saying the word damage a lot. Well, I am, so you don't have to imagine it. Anyway, that's the top 8 2As for new players, but what do you guys think? Is your list different than mine? Put in the comments down below and I'd love to read them. Have a great day, and I'll see y'all next time. Bye-bye.